Hi everybody. First of all, thanks to the BH and Goldie for organizing this in here, because a lot of people in UK even don't know about Kashmir, what's happening, and I think the loss is it's the media which is responsible. So I want to start with this one thing we started in 2011. There was this idea which was started by the army. There was a Lieutenant General Sayyid Ata Hasnan from the Indian Army, and he was appointed in Kashmir. So he started this doctrine called "Heart as my weapon," in which he said that AK-47 is not my weapon, it's a mere tool to be used occasionally, and I have to consider the hearts of the people, I have to focus on that. And though his background was a Muslim, he was an Indian Muslim, so he kind of like gelled in the society in Kashmir, and when he had different features, when he would go to people and he would greet them like they would greet each other, like salam, and offer prayers, and he started organizing iftar parties and these meetings with the people. So his focus was more on psychology of the people rather than the physical torture or other things. So there was this another colonel who was doing research in Indian Army's Research Center, IDSA, Colonel Vivek Chadda, and he wrote a paper about this whole doctrine, and he writes in that paper, I'll quote, "With people as the center of gravity, the media connects them to the army and government at one end and the insurgents at the other through its medium. The heart as a weapon approach has successfully employed this medium as a career to effectively connect with the local population." So this whole idea, and then after this, after he was when his services were over in Kashmir, he also wrote about this doctrine, that what he was trying to do in Kashmir, and he was in his papers he was trying to praised a lot of media agencies and the media as general, that it wouldn't have been possible without the support of the media. So what I'm trying to say basically is that whatever happens in Kashmir, there is a major role played by media. Like if somebody here knows about Kashmir or what's happening in Kashmir, it's only because of the media. Like you were talking about the other part of the Kashmir. I don't know anything about the other part of the Kashmir. Whatever I got to know is because of some of my friends, and they tell me what's happening there. Because there is this disconnect between the media. We don't have a local channel or a local paper which covers the Pakistan administered Kashmir in such a way. So whatever we get to hear about that part of Kashmir is through Geo or other Pakistani channels. And they mostly get to know about this part of Kashmir through the Indian channels or the international media. So the whole thing is how media works in Kashmir. Like there are three different sections of media which are operating in Kashmir. One is the local media, which is quite huge. Another is the national media of India, and then the international media. To give the background of the local media, there is in the research, there was a research done by Ramesh Pandita. He documented the whole the media scenario in Kashmir, and he found out that there are 1,013 titles registered under the RNI in the Jammu and Kashmir state. So which can tell you that how much chaos it is, that there are 1,013 organizations registered as publications in Kashmir. And then another research which was funded by the Home Ministry, which was called a Perception Survey of Media Impact on Kashmiri Youth. This survey found that there are a number of newspapers who are not working. They are just the titles registered, or they are just publishing a few papers. And who is supporting them? Nobody knows them, because there is no auditing system in Kashmir. And the research says that there are dubious funding done by some secret sources. So what happens in a situation like Kashmir is that when you have a certain issue and you are trying to report it, or you are trying to discuss it in the media, so what is the first mechanism that state would use? The state would be like, okay, let's just shut the newspaper, so they won't do such stories and this won't come on. But with time, with few years, we can say in the last 10 years, what state has tried to do, by state I mean India, that they are not trying to directly do this, counter the papers or just cancel their registration or something, but they are trying to create chaos. Like they did same with the newspapers. That's why there are more than 1,000 titles registered. That if you have a one credible newspaper, let's just create 10 more, and then the news will be diluted, and then we can put our own stuff out. So when people get to hear about Kashmir, they don't know what to believe, because there is so much to talk about. And then they do counter arguments in the same papers. There are several papers which I know, even like we can't prove it if we go into court that who's running this paper. But there are several papers which are run by army, which we know, like they are run by army, what they are doing. There are several papers which are run by political parties. Like right now there's campaigning going on for the elections, which is this year. And you will see, if you will go to Kashmir and find out which are the papers which have been started in last few months. There are several papers which have been started in last few months. And if you will read the content as an academic, to study the content analysis of those papers, you will find out that what is the bending, what are you reading within the lines of these papers. So there is this different element. They are covertly doing the stopping the freedom of expression. They are not now doing like, they won't come to my home, like tell me you don't write these stories. They will do other things. The medium where I am writing, they will create several of those mediums, and they will try to create this debate that whether he is writing true or not. So at the end of the day, the reader is like confused what's going on. And there have been several instances and several stories where such things have happened. Like somebody reported an incident, then other paper or other organization reports, oh, actually the case was this didn't happen. This guy was not killed by the bullet, he just fell down on the street. So there have been these incidents. And to talk about the Indian media, like most of you may know that they don't report Kashmir that well. Like last month there was a curfew in Kashmir for 3 days, from February 9 to February 11, because of the Afzal Gurus hanging at Muhammad Gurbat's hanging. So nobody knew about the curfew, because in Indian media there was nothing. And even I thought, I was expecting that like I was expecting more than I should, that something will come next day in the Indian newspapers. And I checked the papers, there was nothing. There was not even the news that okay, there's this thing going on. And in the TV there was nothing. So why they are doing that? It is of course because they are functioning in a state where they can't go openly against the state, and for them it's like to talk about Kashmir is to be anti-national. That's how in India you see this. To talk about something else other than the Indian nationalism, you are an anti-national. To talk about Kashmir, the freedom movement or the struggle which people are doing there, is to be an anti-national. And there's one incident I'll mention you which will like distinguish how the media works. There was in 2006, there was a Kashmiri boy from Handwara district, which is in North Kashmir, Indian controlled Kashmir. So he had just completed his aeronautical engineering in Delhi, and he was living there, and he was about to get a job. He had already got a job in one of the airline companies. And what happens one day, just like the 5 people enter his flat and without the uniform, and they sit and they tell him that, oh, we need you, we have to talk to you about some case, can you come with us? And he's like, why, we can talk here. They're like, no, you have to come with us because we don't want to disturb your neighbors. So they take him away. It's a long story, I'll like put it in short. They take him away, and then just after 3 days, he's like, I met him in Kashmir when he was released after 5 years, and he said that after 3 days, they took me with them, and all of them, where the police was with me, and suddenly they opened the door of the ground floor, and the moment the door opened, what I could see was just the flashes of the cameras and nothing else. And the policeman who was there, the officer, said that he told the media that this is the guy we have arrested with the other guy, and he is working with the Lashkar-e-Taiba, and they are planning a 9/11 type attack in Delhi on Diwali or something. And that's what, and he was like, I was so surprised that they told me take a bath and we are going somewhere, and they just opened door. And the next day the reports in the media were like, these are the headlines which I found after 5 years, that an LET militant held for planning 9/11 type attacks, and Kashmiri militant working with LET held in Delhi. So these were the stories which came next day in the newspapers, which are still in available on internet, which you can find. And his name was Imran Kirmani. And then after 5 years, when he was in prison, after 5 years, he told the court that I don't want a lawyer. I will defend myself. I will defend my case on my own. And he did that. And after 5 years, the court acquitted him. And they told the police that there is no evidence against him. Why is he in jail? Because he was not involved. So they acquitted him, and he went back to Kashmir. So that time I met him in 2011 at his home. And the first thing he asked me was like, which media are you from? Are you from Delhi? Are you from Kashmir? Show me your card. So I had to explain to him, I had to make him like believe that while I am working, I'm not working in Delhi. Because he categorically said that I'm not going to talk to any media who is coming from India. And he didn't talk even to the people who were in Kashmir working with some Indian channels or the newspapers. And that day he said that he talked about the whole story. And when I was making my notes for the story, I went back home and I was like, oh, maybe he's exaggerating, because as a journalist you doubt everything. I thought maybe he's exaggerating as a victim. So I tried to look for his case, what happened in 2006. And what I found was exactly same. I found the newspapers, exactly the same stories. I found the news channels, news clips in IBN 7, India TV, exactly saying the same thing, that this is an LET, he's an LET militant. So that's how India reports. Like if something happens, they just blow it up and they start saying that these are the militants, and they start a media trial. Even if it's not proved in the court, you are like you're guilty. You have attacked, you have done several things, and when you try to write in those forms, you are kind of like stopped, and you are not allowed to write most of the time. It's the editorial policy that you can't write. And to go to the international media, how international media also is losing attention towards Kashmir now, because as we can see in the last few years, there are few bureau offices in Kashmir which have been shut, or either they have stopped the major funding, and it's just the small offices now, because they are not interested in Kashmir that much. It's just the BBC is reporting and just few others, not that much. Because that I can see literally here. When I came here in September, I was so surprised, because people were like, where is Kashmir? So I had to put like coffee mug here and glass here. This is India, this is Pakistan, this is China, and I'm here. So I had to literally show them, put them on graph that this is Kashmir. So that's how the media works. But there's another thing that is the hope thing. Like there's a light to the other side of the tunnel. That now there's the people from Kashmir are trying to come out, and they are trying to grab places in some of the major news channels and the newspapers, through which they are trying to use those platforms to inform media, to inform people around the world, and to create the separate alternative channels. And that was one of the reasons why we started with other people, the magazine 3 years ago. And this was the reason, because I was in Delhi and there was such questions coming to me that I was so surprised. People in Delhi even don't know. They think that in Kashmir everybody carries AK-47. So that was the reason I was like, I think we should do something at a small level, and we should start writing about it. So I think this whole, whatever the world knows and how it's going, what we are doing here right now, or what I am doing in London or somebody elsewhere, is the whole thing has to do with the media, how media portrays it. Like media currently in India is portraying it as a religious war, and if something like they are interested more into things which divide people. Like if there's a sectarian issue, that will be highly like given space in media in India, in other parts. If there's something which is against the people, that will get space like everywhere. And if there's something which is about the movement and which is about the Indian state, what they are doing, it doesn't get such a space in Indian media or even in international media. I'm not so like, I don't think international media has been able to report about Kashmir so much in these last few years. Like we have seen what happened in 2010, and if you look at 2010 and if you will read the whole stories, if you go deep and find out what is the content, you will see that the most of the major writings which have been done by the Kashmiris themselves. They tried to occupy those spaces. It has not been like, not many of the people from outside India came to report Kashmir. They are not that much interested. There are just few people who are interested, like somebody like Victoria. She came in 1981 when I was not even born. And that time it was a different Kashmir. We only hear about it. We have seen this Kashmir. I was born in the 80s. So It's like people like her or some other people who have been associated with Kashmir for a long time, and people now today, like here in UK, I met some of the journalists, and they are completely not interested. They're like, Kashmir is it's a one case, and there are other issues happening in the world. You know, there's right now Ukraine, there's Syria, there's Palestine, there are other issues. But if we will look at Kashmir, it's exactly the same. It's the same issue, and nothing has changed in the last 67 years. If anybody like claims that anything has changed, nothing has changed. The laws were the same. Even the Article 370, which is in the Indian Constitution, has been eroded. The AFSPA, nothing has changed. Even I like blame for that. I could blame on the leaders also in Kashmir, who have not been able to even like change, like even amend it to an extent where people would feel safe. The PSA law, Public Safety Act, was amended last year or 2 years ago because of the amnesty pressure, because there was this international pressure on it. Amnesty produced a report, and then the law was changed from that the person will not be arrested for 2 years, he will be arrested for 6 months, and the age of minors was changed. That's it, and there has been no change. The forces, the number of army is same. The media is being like used as a tool for propaganda and stories like these, the heart as my weapon and other things.